At precisely 9:02 a.m. on a brisk Monday morning in downtown Chicago, the head of security at Dominion Bank's flagship branch made a call that would stun the nation. "It's gone." Mark Albright's voice trembled as he spoke into the phone, his eyes fixed on the empty steel chamber where $300 million in cash and assets had been stored just hours earlier. The vault is empty. By the time local authorities arrived, chaos had already begun to bubble beneath the surface. The bank's president, shareholders, and federal agents descended upon the scene as news helicopters circled above. Dominion Bank, renowned for its state-of-the-art security systems and impenetrable vaults, had suffered what seemed to be an impossible breach. Within hours, details emerged that transformed the heist into a sensation. There were no signs of forced entry. The surveillance footage for the vault, which was monitored 24/7 by both live security and AI-driven software, had inexplicably gone dark between 11:57 p.m. and 12:14 a.m. the night before. Even more baffling, the vault's biometric locks had been accessed using a valid code. Whoever had orchestrated the heist hadn't just cracked Dominion's defenses, they had walked through them like they owned the place. As investigators pieced together the timeline, a web of potential suspects and motives began to unravel. Elliot Grayson, the bank's chief technology officer, was immediately questioned. A former cybersecurity prodigy with a shadowy past in hacking, Grayson had been with Dominion for less than 3 years, but was instrumental in designing the vault's advanced digital defenses. Though he claimed to have been home asleep during the time of the heist, investigators couldn't ignore his intimate knowledge of the system's vulnerabilities. Then there was Vanessa Reed, the bank's head of operations, who had abruptly resigned 2 weeks before the robbery. Reed, a meticulous planner known for her sharp intellect and icy demeanor, had been under scrutiny for questionable financial dealings involving offshore accounts. When authorities learned she had recently liquidated assets worth over $1.5 million and booked a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires, she shot to the top of their list. Finally, there was Aaron Klein, a retired locksmith whose family had owned the building where the Dominion Bank now stood for generations. Klein had filed a lawsuit against the bank years earlier, claiming Dominion had illegally seized the property through shady legal maneuvering. Though he had lost the case, he had since been vocal about his disdain for the institution, often referring to it as a fortress of greed. As federal agents combed through the evidence, a clearer picture of the heist began to form. It became evident that this was no ordinary smash and grab. The plan was methodical, requiring months, if not years, of preparation. Investigators discovered that in the weeks leading up to the crime, Dominion Bank had undergone a series of routine system upgrades. These upgrades, overseen by Grayson, temporarily created blind spots in the security software. While these gaps were supposed to be patched within hours, logs showed that certain vulnerabilities had remained open far longer than they should have. Grayson insisted it was an oversight, but the timing raised eyebrows. Meanwhile, surveillance from outside the building revealed a black utility van parked across the street at odd hours during the week before the heist. The van, registered to a shell company, was equipped with high-grade radio frequency scanners. Experts theorized that the scanners could have intercepted and recorded signals from Dominion's security system, providing the thieves with valuable intel on the vault's operation. Then there was the vault itself. Dominion's centerpiece was a titanium-reinforced chamber, accessible only through a biometric scanner requiring a retina scan, fingerprint, and a unique 6-digit code. Investigators learned that in the past 6 months, at least 4 employees had been coerced into surrendering their biometric data through phishing scams. Combined with the stolen security codes, the heist team could have bypassed the vault's defenses without triggering alarms. 2 days after the heist, a break in the case came from an unexpected source. A Dominion Bank customer who owned a logistics company contacted the FBI with a strange story. He claimed one of his shipping containers, scheduled for transport to Mexico, had been flagged for inspection due to a clerical error. Inside, authorities found bundles of counterfeit cash stamped with Dominion's insignia. The discovery was a clever misdirection. The counterfeit money was convincing enough to fool initial inspections, but further examination revealed its flaws. Authorities realized this was a decoy meant to buy time. By planting fake bills in a container bound for an international destination, the thieves had hoped to lead investigators on a wild goose chase. As the investigation deepened, another shocking revelation came to light. Vanessa Reed, who was believed to have fled the country, was found in a Chicago hotel room, unalive. Her cause of unalive was determined to be a drug overdose, but the circumstances were suspicious. Among her belongings, agents found a flash drive containing encrypted files. Once decrypted, the files revealed detailed blueprints of Dominion Bank security systems, along with a list of offshore accounts tied to Dominion executives, including Elliot Grayson. Grayson was promptly arrested, but he maintained his innocence, claiming the files had been planted to frame him. "I'm being set up," he told investigators during questioning. Whoever did this wanted to eliminate anyone who could point fingers at the real culprit. With Reed unalive and Grayson in custody, the focus shifted to Aaron Klein. Surveillance footage from a nearby building showed a man resembling Klein entering the Dominion Bank parking garage the night of the heist. Though the footage was grainy, investigators were certain it was him. But when agents arrived at Klein's home, they found it abandoned. His car, passport, and personal belongings were gone. Neighbors reported seeing a moving truck at his house a week prior, but no one knew where he had gone. The Dominion heist captured national attention for weeks, with news outlets dubbing it the perfect crime. Theories ranged from an inside job orchestrated by bank executives to an elaborate scheme by international crime syndicates. Though Grayson was ultimately charged with conspiracy and fraud, many believed he was merely a scapegoat. The $300 million was never recovered, and Klein's whereabouts remained a mystery. Dominion Bank faced lawsuits and public outrage, forcing several executives to resign. Years later, whispers of the heist still lingered. In 2021, an anonymous source posted an online manifesto detailing the heist's planning and execution, claiming it had been carried out by a group of everyday people seeking to expose corporate greed. Whether the manifesto was genuine or another layer of deception, one thing was certain. The true mastermind of the Dominion heist remained in the shadows, their identity a mystery. In a quiet coastal town in Portugal, a man known only as Mr. Gray walked into a small cafe. He ordered a coffee, paid in cash, and tipped generously. The barista noticed his American accent and asked where he was from. "Chicago," he replied with a faint smile. But before the conversation could continue, he slipped out the door and disappeared into the bustling street. Weeks later, when the barista saw a documentary about the Dominion heist, she swore she recognized the man in the grainy footage. 2 years after the Dominion heist, a fresh lead emerged in an unexpected place. In Zurich, Switzerland, an Interpol task force stumbled across a shell company tied to a network of offshore accounts linked to the missing $300 million. The account activity revealed transactions involving high-value art purchases, luxury real estate, and encrypted cryptocurrency wallets, all traced back to a single alias, Gray Fox. The alias triggered a wave of speculation among investigators. The encrypted transactions bore a striking resemblance to those used during the heist, suggesting that whoever was behind Gray Fox was not just living off the stolen fortune, but expanding it. Yet Gray Fox's activity wasn't limited to financial transactions. In a chilling twist, messages intercepted by Interpol hinted at the existence of a shadowy group called the Syndicate, a collective of criminal masterminds whose operations spanned multiple continents. Determined to track Gray Fox, the FBI reopened the investigation and focused once more on Aaron Klein. A breakthrough came when a retired investigator recalled an obscure detail about Klein's past. Decades earlier, Klein had been a member of a secretive club of escape artists, individuals who specialized in evading detection and erasing their footprints. Known for their expertise in disappearing acts, members of this club had reportedly been consulted by spies, con artists, and fugitives. With this lead, investigators began combing through international records, uncovering a pattern of real estate purchases under fake names that matched Klein's profile. One such property, located in a remote village in the mountains of Argentina, was raided by local authorities. Inside, they found detailed plans of Dominion Bank's vault, surveillance footage of the bank's employees, and a journal. The journal contained coded entries, but one deciphered page stood out. This is not about the money, it's about the message. Take from the greedy, expose the powerful, and vanish before they can retaliate. The plan is perfect, but the players are not. Reed was a liability. Grayson is the fall guy. And I am the shadow they will never catch. Back in Portugal, rumors began to swirl about the mysterious Mr. Gray who frequented the quiet coastal towns. Locals described him as unassuming yet meticulous, always keeping to himself. One day, a private investigator hired by Dominion Bank's insurance company spotted him in a seaside cafe. Armed with a discreet facial recognition device, the investigator confirmed the man's identity. It was Aaron Klein. But before authorities could be alerted, Klein vanished again. This time, however, he left behind a parting gift. The investigator found an envelope on his car windshield containing a USB drive and a note. You're looking in the wrong places. The true thief is in the boardroom, not the shadows. Dominion's greed built this vault, and their greed destroyed it. Chase me if you wish, but the truth is already in your hands. The USB drive contained encrypted files that, once cracked, revealed damning evidence of Dominion Bank's involvement in money laundering and fraudulent schemes. Public outrage reignited, and the FBI began probing the bank's highest executives. The heist had not just stolen money, it had exposed an empire built on corruption. Aaron Klein, or Mr. Gray, was never captured. His trail went cold once again, leaving behind only whispers of his brilliance and audacity. The Dominion heist became a legend, its mastermind an enigma. Years later, a retired detective working on a memoir received an anonymous package. Inside was a single photograph of a tropical beach, a pair of sunglasses resting on the sand. On the back of the photograph were the words, "The perfect heist isn't about the money, it's about the story. Thanks for being part of mine." And so, the tale of the Dominion heist closed its final chapter, leaving behind more questions than answers, and cementing its place as the greatest unsolved crime of the century.